Well, the iPhone 15 series is finally here, and this year they both get brand new 48 megapixel cameras. On top of that, Apple does introduce a new zoom option, a 2x zoom, to complement the main camera and the wide angle camera in there. Now, it begs the question, how exactly this new camera stacks up? Let's head on out. All right, to make this a proper test, I'm going to compare shots from the iPhone 15 with last year's iPhone 14 Pro and the Google Pixel 7 because they all sort of have similar price points. Got the iPhone 15 here, we're at 30 Rock, and the first thing you should know is that it's a brand new camera here. It's a 48 megapixel camera. It's a step up from last year's iPhone 14, which had only a 12 megapixel camera. It does share a lot of similarities with the iPhone 14 Pro because that one had a 48 megapixel camera too. So theoretically, you get a professional camera this time around. iPhone 14 Pro, so I'm gonna take a snapshot here and I'm gonna do both the full 48 megapixel snapshot and a standard one. Second new thing is the new depth and focus control that's available with the iPhone 15's camera. Now, you don't have to worry about going into the dedicated portrait mode to take portrait photos. Instead, you can just use the standard mode, take out your camera, start shooting. You'll be able to actually convert it into a portrait right there. Choose your subject and also the aperture, the bokeh level effect. If I want myself to be in frame, I just select that. If not, I could choose Brandon over here and he's in frame, and obviously I'm blurred out. 1x definitely does it closer, and 2x zoom. And lastly, there is the new 2x zoom option with the iPhone 15, which Apple claims to have optical quality. It's not a dedicated lens because clearly there's only two cameras here, the ultra wide and the main camera. But Apple's able to give you this 2x zoom because now what it's doing, it's taking that 48 megapixel sensor and it's using the middle 12 megapixels to produce the 2x zoom. The end result should be just as good as an optical lens. Okay, now 2x zoom. Now that I've finished testing out all three cameras, I'm going to go back to the studio to find out how they look on my computer. Look at the shots I took of St. Patrick's Cathedral, and I gotta say, the 15 does a fantastic job of matching the 14 Pro. Pretty much in every area, detailed and dynamic range, color accuracy, it's both spot on, so it's really hard to tell the difference between the two. Against the Pixel 7, it depends on what you like. I do like that it has, a slightly more contrast look, so it draws out some details in the brickwork, especially when I zoom in. So on paper, they look almost exactly like one another. Switching over to the respective ultra-wide cameras, the only noticeable difference in these photos of 30 Rock is that the Pixel 7's ultra-wide camera has a slightly narrower field of view. So it doesn't capture as wide of a scene compared to the iPhone 15 or 14 Pro. Now, despite all this, all three have excellent dynamic range performance, and you kind of make it out by looking at the exposure between the bright light hitting the building and of course the shadowed areas of the foreground. Moving to low light, it's a clear win for the iPhone 15, which is crazy when you think about it, but especially for its price point. In this image of my backyard, you can see there's a lot more detail in the tree. It's brighter. I know the color saturation is a little bit much, but compared to the Pixel 7, Pixel 7's lacking on the detail. The iPhone 14 Pro does a good job of adding more detail. It's a little bit brighter, but nowhere as sharp or clear versus the 15. So the 15 is hands down the big winner in low light. Now, all three phones can shoot 4K video at 60 frames per second. That is the industry standard for today's high-end phones. Yet again, I can't tell the difference between the iPhone 15 and 14 Pro when I look at these videos of the Prometheus statue at Rockefeller Center. They both capture the same amount of details, and I actually like their dynamic range performance. However, with the Pixel 7, it isn't too shabby, but I can make out some noise in the shadows on the left side of the video, and it's also just a tad bit softer in tone. Interestingly, after taking all those shots using the iPhone 15's camera, both with the 1x zoom, 2x zoom options, I'm looking at the samples here on my computer, and honestly, I can't tell the difference. In this first image here of the grass cow, you can see the textures in the cow itself with the grass, and then next to it, the signage. When I crop into the 1x zoom image, you could tell that it's identical to the 2x zoom. You can't really see the difference here. Details are no different. So to me, what's happening here is that Apple's just basically applying a digital zoom effect with the main camera to get that 2x zoom. And as you can see in this other photo of this flower I took, when I crop into that 1x zoom photo and match it up to the 2x one, the flower itself has the same amount of detail in both shots. You can't tell the difference. Same thing with the color saturation and also the bokeh level in the background. So while it technically doesn't offer any improvements as far as detail superiority, I think that the 2x zoom option is still usable, so you'll be able to use it in different situations just to get closer, and that to me is worthwhile. Before I finally answer the question of whether or not the iPhone 15's 2x zoom is legit, I want to show you how all three phones handle 2x zoom. Take the same scene of the golden Prometheus statue. You could see that the iPhone 15 and 14 Pro look identical. The details, contrast, and color production are identical, but the Pixel 4 is just softer. You could see it in the details around the ring, which aren't as sharp. In this other shot of these figurines, the iPhone 15 and 14 Pro produce the same amount of detail, even when I punch into the photos a little bit more. I also like how they do a better job at boosting the shadows than the Pixel 7, which tends to lose the detail. Despite not having a true third telephoto lens like the iPhone 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, I think the iPhone 15 is pretty legit with this 2x zoom option because as you saw, it gets us closer without that much degradation to details, and overall I think that it's a pretty good camera. We all know that Apple makes some incredible cameras, and the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus is no different. It does well against the iPhone 14 Pro, and as you saw, it does much better than the Pixel 7, so it's outstanding in every way in all different lighting conditions. Now, the other point I want to make here is about that 2x zoom level. It's usable. At the end of the day, you could still use it to get closer, which is great, but I don't think so it's any better than the 1x zoom. So if I were you, I would just shoot your standard photos in 1x zoom and then crop later on because it's essentially just a digital zoom and you'll get more flexibility out of that. That is it for our video, guys. If you want to learn more about anything we talk about in this video, check out our website, tomsguide.com. I'm John V. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And what do you guys think about the 2x zoom quality? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it legit? Let me know in the comments.